Hello everybody, my name is Alex. I'm a 2000 rated over-the-board chess player, and in this series we're going from 1000 to 2000 elo in chess.com rapid games, and during the games I'm going to be explaining my thought process as best as I possibly can for your education and entertainment. I want to say a big thank you for the support on this series recently, been incredible, really appreciate it. And like last episode, if you haven't seen it yet, make sure you check it out after this video. We have another Vienna Gambit. I released like a full 1 hour 20-minute video covering everything in the Vienna Gambit if you want to find that on my channel page after this video and learn it for yourself. But hopefully today I can show why it is so good. My opponent knows the main line with d5, and I will discuss after the game why taking is a very bad thing. d5 takes. Black has to take on e4. And as I've mentioned previously, this is a move, this is a move, this is a move. We're going to play queen to f3. I think that definitely at this level, and certainly below this level, the win rates from this position are going to be insane. And to be honest with you, most of your opponents, if you're playing this, are probably going to take. And you're going to go e5, and you're going to have a fantastic game. You really are. But yeah, queen f3. What does queen f3 do? We attack the knight. We put the queen in line with the f7 pawn. We also, indirectly target the d5 pawn. And black has to now make a decision. He has to make a decision. He needs to... Oh my god, that would have been a horrible pre-move. That could have been bad. Black has to choose what he's going to do with this knight. Now, there's three options. In yesterday's game, my opponent played f5, and f5 of course supports the knight. Taking makes no sense, because your opponent just takes back, and that's the whole point. And taking on passant makes no sense, because the knight just takes back, and black is fine. So after f5, in that game we go d3, take, and you'll have to watch yesterday's video to find out what happens from there. The other options are of course taking, and then we will take with the b pawn and attempt to play the move d4, getting this really, really strong pawn chain in the center that is so typical of the Vienna Gambit and is why I love the opening so much. The third option is knight to c6, with the simple idea of counter-attacking in the center. And after knight c6, if white tries to be greedy with knight takes e4 and try and take, then black can play, after takes, knight to d4, attacking the queen and the c2 square. And after a move like queen d3, your opponent can take back, and it's good for black. It's good for black. So in that position, after knight to c6, bishop b5 is the move, pinning the pawn to the knight. And again, play continues from there. But I can't cover everything in this game. That's why I released the full course. And knight takes c3. We're going to take back with the b pawn, and very typical play here would be something like bishop e7, castles, bishop e6, and that is what you will see a lot of the time. The only thing you have to watch out for is the move f6, and typically an opening of the f-file for black favours black, considering the alignment of the rook with the queen once black castles, so be wary of that. But the plans for white here, essentially, are d4, bishop d3, knight e2 castles. That's basically what white wants to do. And hopefully, we will be able to execute that during this game. A more testing move would probably be c5 in this position. Because then after d4, take, and bishop to b4 check, white's in a bit of trouble potentially. Although, in that line, white might be okay. I may be mixing it up with another line. But anyway, bishop e7, like I said, very typical move. We're going to go d4, taking, taking the full center. And this is such a hard structure to break down. My opponent castles. Bishop d3. We put pressure on the h7 pawn. Oh my god, give me 1 second. There we go, okay. I had a bit of raisin in my throat. f6, in some of these lines, we can actually meet with queen to h5, counter-attacking. And after g6, sometimes I think we can just sack the bishop. But my opponent goes pawn to c5, which is a very thematic move. Taking makes no sense. If you're even tempted to take, shame on you. not shame on you, but I'll tell you why that's a terrible idea. The pawn is supporting the e5 pawn, right? If you take the e5 pawn is weak. Furthermore, you have an isolated e-pawn now. You have isolated doubled c-pawns. If black takes you, you just take back and you're fine. So don't take. Knight e2. Defend your center. If black takes and takes, you can always put this pawn on c3 and replace your c3 pawn, and then black has no way of attacking your center unless he plays to move f6, which he may go for. He may go for, but again, I think queen to h5 causes some problems. And let's say black plays a move like knight c6 here, apply more pressure to the center. We can just castle, and we continue with the plan that I outlined before. If black goes c4, that is the only thing you need to be aware of, because the bishop is almost trapped. He does go for it, right on cue. You have to play the move bishop to f5, and you have to just offer this trade. But this is actually a really interesting position, because after bishop takes, queen to d7 is the most popular move. No, sorry, not the most popular move necessarily. I don't know what the most popular move here is, but it makes the most sense. Black offers a queen trade because white is knocking on the door, or is about to be knocking on the door, right? Do not think that black is safe here, because black is not safe. Black needs to do something quickly. If, let's just say you start shoving pawns down the queen side, trying to take space, you're going to lose. Like castles and rook lift, for example. Castles, knight g3, knight h5. I don't know, castles, queen g4, bishop h6. The position is tense. So, queen d7 makes a lot of sense. Black goes, right, okay, well, my king side's a bit weak. Let's trade queens. And I believe there, the move is actually g4, if I remember correctly. And if takes, then white's central pawns here are actually a really big problem for black to deal with. Now, if queen d7, my opponent plays it. You could just retreat your queen. That's absolutely reasonable. Absolutely reasonable. But I think the problem is f6. I think that's a bit of an issue. Because here, if f6, then we probably have queen to e6 check. And we're probably fine. Like knight f4 targeting the d5 pawn, we're balling. But after this, if we retreat now, I don't love the look of h6. Sorry, f6. So g4, I really hope that I've played this in the correct position. Now my opponent could go bishop to h4, checking my king, and I think knight g3 would be the best move there. Because if takes, we're threatening mate. And yes, I have doubled isolated g-pawns, but you either go g6 and probably get mated anyway, or you trade queens and I undouble my pawns, and my pawns are really, really strong. So yeah, let's go knight g3, right on cue. I think I've predicted like all of my opponent's moves this game. It's pretty funny. By the way, if you're enjoying the video so far and finding it useful, educational, maybe even entertaining, please drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Really helps to motivate me keep making these videos for you guys, because the daily upload schedule, I love it, but it's a lot. It is a lot, but I love it. So please help keep me motivated. And we get exactly what I predicted. And we basically have this massive, okay, that was a terrible use of English. That was awful. This massive pawns in the center, this massive conglomerate of pawns, that's a bit nicer sounding. And if black can undermine them, black's probably okay. But that's a big if. I'm going to start with rook b1. This pawn is tender. If b6, rook b5 looks pretty tempting, trying to put pressure on the d5 pawn. We don't even have to do that. We could just not. But if b6, rook b5, I don't see how you defend this, because the knight is blocking the d file. So that's actually a little bit of a problem in that position. I think black has to be very, very careful as to how he deals with this. Sorry for knocking my mic. Yeah, not an easy position whatsoever. This is a very good endgame. Okay, sorry about that. I had to take a call. Knight b6 is played by my opponent. Of course, that defends the d5 pawn, but I don't think that solves his problems. Because, I mean, even a move like bishop a3, bishop c5, putting pressure on the knight would be an idea. Although I don't really want to open up the a file for my opponent. But what I'm thinking is, f6 can always be met with e6. g6 can just be met with g4 after f6. If g6, then f6 looks completely lost for black, probably. So I'm not really sure what black does here. It seems like black is pretty much frozen. I'm half tempted to just run my king up the board. I don't really know what my opponent can do about that. But yeah, f6 just never works because I have too much support for my pawns. And if anything, that'll just weaken the h-pawn and my opponent's king. By putting my rook on b1, I'm kind of gluing the knight down. And the knight is probably the most... The piece of blacks that is most able to maneuver because it can jump, right? The rooks can't do anything because there's no open files. I have the only open files here. I mean, you have the e-file, but like, you can never do anything on the e-file. So I don't know what the correct approach here is. I really don't. But this can't be bad. Getting my king involved can't be bad. f6, yeah, we go e6. I don't think I need to think too hard about that. We could even throw in the move bishop to h6 in this position, forcing the rook off of f8, although I think we probably just go g4, to be honest. And bishop h6 is always an idea. Always an idea. If take, we just take. And then, to be honest, we have threats of like bishop h6, rook e8, rook g1, king h8, bishop g7, king g8, and bishop takes f6 with check. Oh, and my opponent blunders the exchange. Fan-flippin-tastic. Let's go. Nothing special, guys. Nothing special. Chess is a complicated game. Try and keep it simple, right? In this position, I mean, my opponent blunders, yeah, but people are always going to blunder at some point. No matter what rating you are. You know, I play like 2100 plus splits online. I blunder. My opponents blunder. Everyone blunders. And we asked so many questions of my opponent that at some point they're going to mess up. However, the game is not over. Don't think the game is over just because you're up an exchange. Realistically, there's not that much maneuverability for any of our rooks right now. Which is why me being able to tie this knight down is really, really important for the time being. I may try and infiltrate like this. I am aware of that, but I'm not sure yet. a4, a5 is interesting to try and get rook to b7 and go on the 7th rank. That's a very interesting idea. Maybe I should have gone for it. I went for king to f3 because I feel like time isn't really of the essence. And, I mean, king f3 is just a useful move. My opponent goes king g7, doesn't really do anything. Yeah, I feel like the computer probably would have said pawn to a4 rather than king to f3. And I think I should probably play pawn to a4. That seems like the most logical move here. So let's play it. Also, this will come with check now. Rooks don't move like that. Rooks move like this. That will also come with check. And then we're probably mating my opponent, actually. Or almost mating my opponent, which would be pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, the point is that if my opponent plays a move like rook b8 to defend himself, let's say, a5, if knight c8, that's so miserable. That's horrific. Let's say, I don't even know, here, here, and here, attacking c3, maybe that's an idea. So maybe I should play on rook b8, rook to b4, because it's actually really difficult to defend c3. And if I do that, my rook is effectively tying down a knight, a pawn, and a rook. And now a5 is actually an idea because we take away the a4 square from the knight. And the knight also can't go here, the knight can't go here. That looks horrific. And obviously the knight can't go here. So that looks really promising. We have to make sure we keep this knight out of the game because let's say rook b8, a5, knight a4, I don't even know. Let's say we do a nothing move, like, I don't know, rook h2, knight c3, black wins a pawn, then the knight gets to e4, then we're probably still winning, but it's not simple, because the knight will be incredibly powerful. We can't allow black to do something like that. Now, if black had a few moves, maybe he could do something like this? Like knight c8, knight d6, knight e4, and b6 to defend the pawn. Even then, we're probably still winning, but it complicates the game. I would really recommend to you guys, don't let your opponents have counterplay. When you've got an obviously better position, which we do, we have a big space advantage, we have a protected past E-pawn, and we're an exchange up. Right? Don't just think about the material, think about the position. Why would you give your opponent anything? Just try your best not to. I think it's really, really useful. And yeah, my opponent resigns, and I don't blame him, because he cannot do anything. He can't do anything, and this is the power of understanding what, like, the points of the Vienna Gambit. Like, I knew all this theory. Now, there is something to be said for memorizing moves. There is definitely something to be said for it. But understand the moves. Understand the moves, right? Like, I think throughout this whole game, I was basically able to tell you and explain to you guys watching why I'm playing the moves that I'm playing. It's no good me just memorizing moves and then going, oh, you do this after this, and you do this after this, and this after this. Even if I could remember all that, even if I could, that's not useful for anyone. And when your opponent plays something you've never seen before, what are you supposed to do then? 95.8% accuracy, that's decent. We made one mistake, which we will find out what that is. But yeah, e4, e5, knight c3, knight f6, f4. Taking is bad. We go e5, the knight cannot move forward in any regard. No, not like that. The knight has to go back, or queen e7, trying to pin the pawn and attack the pawn. We go queen e2, counter blocking. The knight has to retreat, and black is effectively lost because the queen is really, really vulnerable on the e7 square. The bishop can't develop properly, the knight can't develop properly. Really bad. So my opponent plays the main line. I don't know why my camera keeps lagging. This is so annoying. I hope it's not too distracting. d5. d5. Okay, I think I may have fixed the camera, but we will see. d5 is the move, right? And fe5, knight e4. Again, knight f3 is playable here. Okay, I didn't fix it. And I have experimented with this, and if something like takes, then again, white kind of gets everything he wants. d4, bishop d3 castles. The queen isn't quite as involved as with the queen to f3 lines, but you get a very similar position. We go queen f3. Again, knight c6 is a move. This is met with bishop to b5 because this knight cannot be allowed to invade. f5 is a move, which if you don't know what to do against this, make sure you check out yesterday's video and yesterday's episode of the speedrun. And the other option is taking, which is what my opponent does. B takes. B takes is played because we want to play d4. Bishop e7, not the best move. c5 is probably a bit better. And then d4 is less playable now, because here... Is that the... Oh, no, sorry. It's queen h4. What am I on about? And then we have problems. Apologies. So against this, bishop b5 check is the move. And this is one of those things you kind of have to learn, but the point is that c5 applies too much pressure to d4 too quickly. You can't get away with it. And then if knight c6, which is very natural, queen g3, followed by knight f3 is a very typical plan. To defend the pawn, put pressure, defend, and prepare the move d4 and castling. This is a rare setup from black, to be honest, but again, it is worth knowing. Hopefully the reasons are clear, because d4 becomes very difficult to play with the immediate pressure. Whereas the way it went in the game, with takes, bishop e7, d4, castles, bishop d3, again, this should all make sense. f6 is something you have to be concerned about. You can play queen to h5 here. Taking is a very bad idea, because you can see the eval bar, but more importantly, black's pieces are coming alive, and this is not good. And your king is still in the center, and the e-file is open. You should be scared. The computer's second favorite move is queen d1. That should show how bad the position is. I don't even understand how it's justifying queen d1. That's hilarious. But c5 in this position, now we're ready. Now taking is fine. I mean, there's no queen to h4, obviously. But even if there was, what's it doing? If bishop to b4, just c3. Now if queen to h4, which is apparently a line. What? The computer wants to go for this and claim this is holdable. Well, I don't think it is, but... yeah, I've never had this played against me. I wouldn't worry about it. It's not good anyway. C4. C4 is very tempting for black, because it looks like you're taking a lot of space, and the bishop is almost trapped, but bishop f5. Some people here like the move g6, threatening the move bishop to c4. I actually had this in an over-the-board classical game, and I played the move bishop to h6, which is the correct move. And after c4, trapping my bishop, you have bishop f8, and after bishop f8, white is winning because of castle incoming with mating threats. This bishop is lost, by the way. And if queen takes, which I think my opponent played, then we give the bishop up, I believe, on g6, and we have a good attack. In that game, I actually gave the bishop up on c4. Maybe not in this particular position. I think this bishop had already moved, and then I took on b7, and I think I ended up losing that game. But I had a winning position at one point. Anyway, a complicated position. But my opponent goes c4 immediately. Bishop f5, take, queen d7. So here, like I was saying, if you take, then black just develops. Why are you doing that? If you retreat, which is very, very tempting, then f6 is a bit of a problem. Because this alignment is an issue, right? So let's imagine black just develops. Well, then you're all right, because you get knight f4 in. If in this position f6 is played immediately, I assumed queen to e6. The computer does like that, also likes pawn e6, also likes rook b1. And here, yeah, white is okay. Queen d7 changes things a bit. And you can go knight g3, but g4 is a bit more accurate, I believe. I don't know why the engine's saying to take. It literally just said that line is bad. Engines are weird sometimes. And taking here is not great, but my opponent goes bishop h4 check. King d1 is the best move, really. Didn't know that. Didn't know that. You learn something new every day. I go knight g3. I thought this was logical. Here f6. Huh. Well, if f6 is played here, then we have e6, right? If f6 is played here, is the point rook e8? Yes, because the bishop isn't on e7 blocking the rook anymore. Interesting. Interesting. Okay, don't be scared to put the king on d1, guys. I speak with some authority on this opening because I'm pretty good at it. But there's always new things to learn. And this is why chess is so great and so terrible at the same time. But okay, knight g3. My opponent takes. hg3, queen f5, gf5. You can see this position is so good for white, even though it's equal material. And development is basically the same. If not, black is ahead in development because he's castled. But knight d7, we go rook b1, which is the best move. Knight b6. I did consider the move rook to b5 here, but I was like, I don't know. b6, I was planning to meet with rook b5, and this pawn can't be defended, which is true. So knight b6. We go king f2. g4 is the best move, but it doesn't matter too much. Just improve your pieces now. Black can't do anything. f6, we just push. Of course, don't take this. You can see the advantage immediately disappear, almost. Taking is horrific, because black gets everything he wants now. And black comes alive. Yes, we still have pressure here, but our king is bare, and black's rooks now have two open files to work with. So, shut things down. g6, again, don't take. Taking, it's still good, because the pawn still survives, the files are still shut. But why are you allowing this? Just go g4. King g7 loses the game, of course, but what else can black do? If g5 shutting things down, then black has no play. We can go for this plan. We can do this. We can go rook h6. We can do basically anything. I don't really understand this move, to be honest. Okay. Okay, Mr. Stockfish. And then this, we just have f6 and the pawns march through. Okay. Our opponent, of course, blunders. And we win the exchange. The game is not over. I go king f3, which is fine. The best move here was rook h6. And if king here. And then if here. Ah, okay, that's very interesting. And the knight, neither the knight or the king can stop promotion. Okay, whatever. King f3. No rush, no rush. King g7. Black can't do anything. Here, a4 is the best move. So I'm happy I saw that. And here, black fought for a few minutes and straight up resigned. Because what can he do? Rook b8. Here I was like, well, a5, then knight a4, and we have some potential problems. And then I realized rook b5, which is the best move. And black is frozen. This hangs a knight. If the knight moves, I mean, he can't do anything. The knight can maybe try and get in like this. But, I don't know, we just double up probably. If b6, maybe a5, maybe rook b5. Knight e7 defending. Rook c5, playing on the pin. And if rook b7, stopping rook c7, a5. I mean, there's going to be so many different ways to break through this position, realistically. Regardless of what the way is, black can't do anything. So my opponent resigns, which was maybe a little bit premature, but I can't say I blame him. And hopefully, you learned a lot in this video. Hopefully you can use the Vienna yourself. And if you want to learn more about the Vienna, check out the video up here for another really cool Vienna game. And if you want to see the previous episodes of this speedrun, check out the playlist down there. I know you're going to love it if you loved this video.